It is the Lehocky Eagles postgame show. And unfortunately, it's the last postgame show because the Eagles get hammered tonight. I could never have guessed that they would lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first round of a playoff game, 32-9. A team that we feared was dismantled. But somehow, in the playoffs, we had this newfound hope that maybe they could catch some lightning in the bottle, at least win one game before they went to the second game and lost to a better team. But they just flat out were a disintegrated NFL football team. They showed it tonight. They just came apart at the seams. And we don't know where they go from here, except for the fact that I suspect, you fans of Game of Thrones, a red wedding could happen as much as tomorrow with a coaching staff being completely gutted. And then you have to think about the players, that who's going to be back and who's going to leave and what their plan of attack is. Do they have to start over? And there's a lot to unpack right here. So let's bring in a man who's good at unpacking. And he was with us for most of the year here on the Lehocky Eagles postgame show. We'd love to bring him in tonight, although the circumstances we bring him in are pretty bleak. The great Derrick Gunn joins us. D. Gunn, I mean, I don't know what to say. 32-9, and just really, it was pathetic to watch the effort that this team did not put forth tonight.
You know, it's funny. For weeks, we listened to this team every week talk about how we're going to get this right. It's going to take, it's not going to take much. We know what we need to do, so on and so forth. But you could tell right from that opening Tampa Bay series, this team was dead in the water. They showed the same lack of enthusiasm, the same lack of energy that they showed against both Arizona and the Giants. And lo and behold, even without A.J. Brown, this team still had enough talent to not allow a team like Tampa Bay to score 32 points on them. But what did it boil down to? Atrocious tackling, mental mistakes, and play calling. Again, in short yardage situations, instead of crossing routes to pick up a first down, they're going for the home run ball again. When was the last time you watched an Eagles game where they were 0 for the entire game in third down conversions? I mean, think about that alone. The last time an Eagles team was 0 for the night in third down conversions. They never deviated from the norm. Now, they knew Todd Bowles was going to blitz. After watching what Wink Martindale did to this team just a week ago, and Tampa Bay having the third most blitzing defense in the entire National Football League, you mean to tell me you couldn't prepare better than you did for them blitzing you? And you stood back there and they made Jalen force the issue time and time again. And even when Julio went down, you're still trying to connect on the deep ball. What about the underneath crossing routes? I'm not talking about the hitch passes, the swing passes. The middle of the field at time was wide open, and Jalen did not look over the middle of the field. And I think one of the most telling tales of the game was twofold. First of all, in that fourth quarter, when the Eagles had a chance to get within striking distance, they had two bonehead mistakes in back-to-back plays. They had an eligible man downfield. Then they had a holding on Malata. And then they still got within striking distance. And I have no problem going for it on a 4th and 5. But why would you go to the lob to the end zone? All you needed was 5 yards. And you saw from the broadcast, if Goddard had cut his route off over the middle, that's one of the easiest first down pickups. Who knows? They could have scored, changed the momentum of the game, but they played right into Tampa's hands, just as they did in Dallas, just as they did against Arizona, just as they did against the Giants, and again tonight against Tampa Bay.
Gunner, I know you have a tendency to reach out to some of these players in the locker room and kind of get a vibe. Has that opportunity presented itself? Have you heard from anybody in the Eagles locker room yet?
Yes, but I'm not going to go in there right now, Mark, because you know how stuff blows up. I'm just going to let sleeping dogs lie. But this has been coming for quite some time. And anybody who thinks anything differently has not been watching this team over the last 6 weeks. Yes, there are some internal problems on this team. And I'm sure some of these stories will come out eventually as we get away from this season. But right now the topic is a little bit too hot to go into details without giving away something that people have told me, and I don't want to go there right now. Okay. But I love you, brother. You know that.
Fair enough. Back at you. But let me ask you this then. Aside from mood of the locker room and all that stuff, as a man who is plugged in as you are, who do you believe made the decision to move on from Sean Desai and hit that panic button with just 4 weeks left in the season?
I think that came from upstairs. I honestly do. I think there was a collaboration of Howie and Jeffrey. I do. And basically, Nick Sirianni was told, here's what we're going to do. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I'm just giving you my speculation in terms of what I know about this organization. Nick Sirianni can be loyal to a fault sometimes, as Doug Peterson was with his coaching staff. But sometimes people up top have a better idea. And we should have been able to see this coming right when it was announced that Matt Patricia was going to be an assistant way back in the spring. We should have seen this coming, some type of interference. I don't think it was fair that Sean Desai was a scapegoat in all this mess, because as we witnessed, Matt Patricia couldn't fix the problem. As a matter of fact, it got worse instead of better against lesser opponents. You look at the gauntlet that Sean Desai's defense ran through, and that's a pretty tough gauntlet. And, of course, you look at the gauntlet that Matt Patricia's defense ran through, should have won those games, plain and simple. Had they won one of those games, they would have won the division and been playing at home against the likes of Tampa Bay instead of having gone down to Tampa Bay and getting embarrassed.
Not sure that would have mattered, though, Gunner, with this team the way they've been playing. But, look, we're talking about the coaches. Obviously, a lot of people want changes to the head coach, to the offensive coordinator. But I don't want to absolve Jalen Hurts. We saw Jalen Hurts tonight make some really bad decisions. Granted, the play calling was terrible. The game planning was terrible. But there were times where it looked like there were receivers open. There were times where it looked like he could step up in the pocket, but he immediately exits the pocket. Yeah. Did you see Jalen Hurts take a huge step back this season?
No. What I saw Jalen Hurts do is play inconsistent like he has over the last month of the season. And for a person who spends as much time in the film room, as much time going over these things with a quarterback coach, a head coach, and an offensive coordinator, the fact that he didn't get any better over the last month of the season, it's atrocious. And it has to start with the quarterback. You should be able to look at your deficiencies and find a way to make them an asset instead of a liability. But yet, as Seth will tell you, word gets around the league real quick in terms of what you can do and cannot do against certain teams. And you look at how Arizona played him, look at how the Giants played him, and he played right into the hands. No adjustment routes, no crossing routes, always going for the home run. That's his MO this season. And for whatever reason, the coaches cannot get it in his head that this is what you need to do to get better, to become more unpredictable. Jalen played his game. The same game he played in 2022 is the same game that just didn't work in 2023 because coaches had more film on him and what his tendencies are in this offense.
D-Gun, do you ascribe that to Jalen? Or is that something, where, listen, if he spends as much time preparing as everyone says he does, okay, and the coaches are giving him the adjustments that's necessary for him to have success, I'm just like miffed, that he's the problem. I kind of get the sense that it's like, okay, they're coming with zero blitz. Instead of you checking and having the damn tight end to come back in and help, or go 12 personnel and give me an 8-man situation and send 2 guys out on a route and let somebody win one-on-one. Instead of doing that, you asked me to make the last guy miss. Now, my fingers already broke. Guys are coming in, swatting in my hand that I throw the ball with, and you still want me to play that way? Is it really Jalen? Or is this an adjustment that the Eagles are just so damn stubborn that they won't make, that they're just going to take shot plays every single time that they read blitz instead of having a crossing route with the middle of the field wide-ass open instead of hitting somebody on a slant, running away from a defender?
Seth, if what we've been hearing is true over the past several weeks, that Jalen changes a lot of plays at the line of scrimmage, then that's on the quarterback because he's been around the block long enough to be able to look across that line of scrimmage and see what's coming. How does he not know, and everybody on the planet who watches football know, that Todd Bowles is coming after him tonight? What do? You make the adjustment. What's the best way, Seth, to beat the blitz? Shorten your routes, right? Get the ball out of your hands quick as possible, shorten your routes. What did Jalen Hurts do? Holds on to the ball too long once again and takes unnecessary shots, and his defenders or his receivers can't get open. When you're minus A.J. Brown and then Julio Jones goes out of the game as well, I don't care who you have on the field. the way Tampa was playing you, especially giving you in the middle of the field, you could have chewed them up over the middle, and you didn't. Why? The coaches can only give you so much. They give you the information, Seth. It's on the players to execute. Jalen is a smart young man, but at times Jalen can be a stubborn young man as well. And I think his stubbornness gets in the way of an excellent of a guy who could be a little bit more excellent than he has been.
Well, isn't it the coach that has the last say? Like, if I'm the offensive coordinator and I send a play in, okay, I got to 15 seconds before the communication is cut off, okay? Whatever the play is, run it, Jalen. Don't check it. I mean, doesn't the offensive coordinator or the head coach have the ability to tell him to do that? Where's the adjustment? Because, we're not talking about Jalen not making an adjustment against the blitz just for one game. This has been the MO ever since the San Francisco game. So now you tell me you spend all of this time, the first guy in the building, last guy out. We know the coaches are there 12 to 15 hours every day. You mean to tell me that between the coaches, you got a head coach who's an offensive guru, you got an offensive coordinator, a quarterback coach, all these people that they got surrounding Jalen, and no one can help him come up with a remedy for the blitz? Come on, man. Come on, D. It's a lot bigger than that. And if he ain't listening, then maybe you need to just sit his ass down and get until he's willing to listen.
Seth, as I told Farzi, there's a lot more internal things going on here that I can't get into. I honestly just cannot get into. And like I said, eventually maybe some things will come out. But
hey,
I'm not saying
D-Gun,
what?
I know.
What?
I know.
Okay.
Go ahead. I know.
I can't be the one to reveal that information. I just can't.
Seth Joyner is going to be the defensive coordinator next year. Say that, Gunner.
That ain't it. I know the same internal stuff that you talking about, D-Gun. I know too. But I ain't going to throw the person who told me under the bus.
No. Can't do that. Can't do that at all. Because what happens, Seth, if you reveal too much information, you're not going to be on the inside anymore. You'll be on the outside looking in.
Well, I'm on the outside. The way I'm cooking tonight, I don't ever plan on being on the damn inside because I'm just going to tell the truth. It is what it is. Listen, whatever they want to do, go ahead and do it. I'm protecting my people. You understand what I'm saying? I don't give a damn about what's going on over there. Right. That's not my job to worry about what's going on over there.
Well, see, Seth, I like my vantage point sometimes. I like being on the inside looking out.
I get you.
But unfortunately, being on the inside looking out means that a lot of times you have to go into the silent mode. You have to go into the witness protection mode because if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time, you can very easily be on the outside looking in. And for the 26 plus years I've covered this team, I've been on the inside looking out. Now, there are certain things that I can talk about when given a green light. Right now is not that time, though.
Derrick, let me ask you this because I wanted to bring everybody in on this anyway. I can't imagine that the brass would retain Sirianni at this point. So there's a major name that's out there. Now, in my fiber of my bones, I wouldn't think that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman would go to Bill Belichick. But these are now desperate times. Like the shiny new toy to discover the young guy. Is it possible that they think about that?
I think, Mike, basically because of the way they lost this game was also a mirror image of how they closed out this entire season over the last 7 games. Going into this game, I was of the mind that there's no way Nick Sirianni gets fired if this team put up a fight, if it was a close game. But after watching the way this team went about its business tonight, I think everything's on the table now. When you look at the wealth of coaches out there available, Belichick, Pete Carroll, Mike Vrabel, and a host of other names, it comes to a point for Jeffrey Lurie where you have to sit back and really think, is what I have what I want going into the future, or is there a better option out there? I mean, it's not often you hear of a coach in his first 3 years that go to the playoffs and in his second year get to the Super Bowl, and we're sitting here talking about him being replaced. But lo and behold, such is the case. I don't think it would have been a discussion if the talent pool of availability out there was not as vast as it is right now. I will tell you this, there will be a host of coaching changes after what tonight's debacle looked like. There will be a lot of position changes and, coordinating changes as well. Those are coming. Those are inevitable. But in terms of the head coach, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, and yes, even Big Dom, they will sit behind closed doors. They will analyze everything and come to a conclusion. If Nick Sirianni moving forward with a different coaching staff under his wing is what they want, or should they go in a completely different direction? Again, with the onus of being, when was the last time you heard of a coach going to the playoff 3 years in a row, getting fired? Heck, Mike Tomlin's been the same coach in Pittsburgh for 17 years, never had a losing season. He's still coaching. It doesn't happen. You don't want an Eberflus in here. You don't want an Adam Gase in here, a Josh McDaniels in here, a Brandon Staley. But because of this vast pool of talent they have available, everything's on the table right now.
Well, Gunner, is it possible then, because, you should look forward if you're going to have a new head coach, if you're going to have a change. You want to be optimistic about it. You want to have someone you can look forward to. But unless anything changes with Jeffrey Lurie and the way he likes to apparently meddle in things now, and Howie Roseman the way he has always been in the analytic department, and Jeffrey Lurie banging the drum for the analytic department, what do we have to look forward to if there is a coaching change? Forget about the coach for a second. Will there be a philosophical change amongst the Eagles to help them get back to the competitive nature we saw them last year and the beginning of this year?
If there is a coaching change, Mark, you have to have somewhat of a philosophical change as well. Look at the change they made when they allowed a college coach like Chip Kelly to come in here and run his offense after 14 years of Andy Reid. Okay, so if you bring in a Belichick, there's an organizational change. A Pete Carroll, there's an organizational change. You want to tap into what made those guys successful where they were. So yes, Jeffrey Lurie knows that if he brings somebody like that in, he's also going to have to change their approach to football. Howie Roseman is going to have to change his approach to how they scout and draft football players. Not giving up their culture motif. They still want to go after players that are high quality, high caliber players who don't get into a lot of trouble. I understand the Jalen Carter situation was an exception to the rule, but they're still going to go after high caliber players through the draft and free agency, but it'll be a different type of player if they bring in the likes of a Belichick or a Pete Carroll.
D-Gun, you talk about a philosophical change. Jeffrey Lurie doesn't hire defensive coaches, and he doesn't hire retreads. You look at the last few coaches he's hired. Doug Peterson wasn't a retread offensive coach. Nick Sirianni, not a retread offensive coach. Chip Kelly, offensive coach. Andy Reid, offensive coach. He takes pride in finding the person that nobody else was thinking about. So do you really think that they would make a big philosophical change and not only hire a retread, but a defensive coach that's a retread?
Jeffrey Lurie has one Super Bowl trophy in all of his tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles. Jeffrey Lurie came within 3 points with basically the same offense and a vast different nucleus of defensive players, but came within 3 points of winning the Super Bowl a year ago. Jeffrey Lurie wants another Super Bowl trophy. And to get that trophy, what do you start with? You've got to change the way this defense plays football. Think about this, Bill. All the way from the draft through training camp, through the early part of the season, we raved about the Jalen Carters, the Jordan Davis, Hassan Reddicks. Down the stretch, where were those three players? Now, I'm not saying they're bad players. I'm just saying the message that was being given to them kind of faded. So you got to bring somebody in here. Maybe he has to deviate from the norm. He's found the offensive coaches. Maybe it's time to deviate from the norm and bring in a definitive defensive mind and let that defensive mind bring in an offensive-minded coach. Maybe that's the route you go now, because as we watch through 18 games this season, this potent offense with an inferior defense is not going to work moving forward. Maybe it's time to flip the script. Make the defense a little bit more potent with the same nucleus of offensive players, and let's see what happens then.
D-Gun, when I talk about a philosophical change, I'm talking about how they play football, not necessarily – I don't care what the coaching staff looks like. I don't want to see another Vic Fangio disciple, another branch off that tree, or even a leaf off that damn tree, Okay,
Right.
I want to see a guy like maybe Rex Ryan come in here and turn up the heat. I want to see a guy like Wink Martindale come in here, and even if he tampers it down just a little bit, a guy that
Right.
comes in and plays a little more aggressive with a staff
Yes.
that will come
Yes.
along with him with the ability to teach, develop, groom, and bring on. It don't
Yep.
take a rocket scientist to realize the last time you played against this team, and it's the same football team, okay?
Yep.
We rushed for 201 yards against this football team. This same defense, okay? It's not a different defense. It's the same defense. And we got off to a good start with Swift running the football. And then they got greedy again and went back to the same thing. Oh, we're going to throw the ball all over the map. It hasn't worked for this organization all season long, because invariably what happens is you get to a point where the defense has the book on you. Just like Nick Bosa said, we got the blueprint. Okay, now they didn't have to blitz us like crazy in order to develop that blueprint, because they got one of the most dominant defensive fronts in all of football. But they showed everybody else that if you can control the run, and because this team wants to throw the ball, 3-1, but if you can control the run and force them to put the ball in the air and get them behind the sticks on first and second down, now you can blitz because they don't have an answer for it. So the philosophical change has to happen not only on the defensive side of the ball and how you believe and how you think defensive football should be played, but it needs to be a shift in how you think offensive football is played as well. And if they don't do that, this team is going to be mired in the muck again for the next I don't know how many years, because this brand of football and how they view the way the game should be played doesn't work. They got away with it last year. It caught up with their asses this year.
I was just going to say in 2022, Seth, the same type of offense they're playing, going for the big shots, was near flawless for this team. Why? Because they played more dominant football, 70 sacks. You're top of the category in just about everything under a guy named Jonathan Gannon, okay? You look at what they've had as defensive coordinators over the last 2 seasons. 3 defensive coordinators in the past 2 seasons. Gannon, this side, Patricia. All 3 of them. Soft coverage on the outside, 4-man rush, very seldom blitz. Every now and then you might up the ante a little bit. When you look at a Todd Bowles defense, when you look at a Wink Martindale defense, you know they're coming after you the entire game, and their cornerbacks are going to be playing up close. That's the philosophical difference I'm talking about, Seth. If a Wink Martindale comes in here, you're not going to tell him what you want from a defense. He's going to tell you how he runs this defense. Maybe the Eagles have too many yes men as coaches. You need to have somebody who comes in here and tells you how it should be done, instead of you having suggestions on how it should be done.
D-Gunn, we missed you, man. And, of course, Derrick was a regular member of this panel, and his wife, unfortunately, had some serious health problems, and his responsibility was to be with her at home. Our thoughts and support are always with you, my man, and hopefully we see you again down the road.
D-Gunn, I'm doing what you love to do tomorrow.
What's that?
I'm going fishing, brother.
Where? Where you going?
Just like them Eagles. They going fishing. Season over.
Are you going back to Arizona to go fishing? It's too cold to go here.
Man, listen, I got a trip to Cabo next week, in the next couple of weeks, and I'm gonna do some deep sea fishing. I'll send you some red snapper. I have them flash freeze it and send it to you, brother.
Please, I love red snapper, dude. Please.
D-Gun, thank you so much, man. And we'll catch you down the road. All right, buddy. Thank you. Of course, D-Gun joining us on the Lehocky Eagles postgame show. That segment presented by First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. John McMullen, who covered the game, is going to be with us in a little bit. And, of course, our next segment, Kayla Santiago joins us with Kayla's Diamond Debate.
And I'm out, Mike. This is it for me.
Bill Colarulo, you've been a valuable addition, my brother.
So it was a pleasure to work with you guys. I wish it was longer.
Be careful.
I wish it didn't end like this.
It's
but
nasty out there. Okay?
I will talk to you guys soon, hopefully.
Bill Colarulo, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Lehocky Eagles postgame show live from Ocean Casino, and we're back after this.
They're carving them up, and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.